suppose recovery means to me keeping out of hospital, keeping stable, having days less filled with confusion, coping well with day-to-day life and not falling into crisis every couple of days, keeping some kind of equal balance to my days, and feeling confident that that will continue rather than having fears that things will escalate and get out of control quickly, which happened all the times when I was ill. I was never able to maintain equilibrium for very long when I was ill.
It's stability. It's because I know drugs aren't good for you, and I had pals who smoked drugs, and I wanted to cut them out of my life because I want a good and bright future.
Recovery is a process. I don't think it's linear. I think it's a sort of imperfect kind of thing. It's the sort of thing that you aim for with a hope to becoming well, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're 100% cured. It means you've learned to adapt to life. It means that you're living in the best way that you can do, and that you're maybe finding the little things that work for you, and just giving yourself a chance to be as well as possible. But it doesn't necessarily mean being fixed or being cured or being perfect.
Not being scared anymore, being able to go out the house, being able to go into strange situations where you're not sweating or your chest tight, being able to look over your shoulder without worrying, being able to even physically open your own door and go out, not having to spend all day every day hiding. Recovery just means so much to me now. All the things I took for granted, sleeping in a bed, eating a meal, I don't take those for granted anymore. Recovery just means leading the same kind of life that most everybody else does.
Although they've been tweaked and adjusted as time's gone on, I still do feel that the drugs are one thing that on one hand keeps me well, but on the other hand keeps me down. And I just wish there was alternatives to drugs that a lot of the time, and to more psychotherapy, more input by other agencies in terms of occupational therapy, things like that, things that are not drug based, because I do feel that the drugs are often the focus of the professionals, and they're not often what are best necessarily for the patients. We're at the mercy of the professionals a lot of the time and have to kind of go along with what they say, and we're so fearful of a relapse that we'll often take just whatever's being prescribed to us. And if you don't have the confidence to maybe argue your case and demand a better service, then you're often just left at the mercy of the services and have to take whatever's prescribed. And often this can affect your recovery. I also have what I call my hospital hangover. I'm so fearful of going back into hospital that thoughts of what happened in the past kind of get in the way and make me feel very down, and I'm often fearful of asking for help in case people think that I need to go back to hospital. But luckily I've got great support just now, so I'm less fearful about that as time goes on. But I've seen such bad care, bad practice, mostly as an inpatient, that I'm terrified of going back into hospital and being at the mercy of the situations that go on. I've seen so many people being controlled and restrained when there's been no need for it, things like that. And it's terrifying and makes you feel very fearful. So I think that that's been very negative in supporting my recovery, because there's not a safe place to go if I do get ill again.
What has been negative, my CTO, community treatment order, it's restricted me from going out and doing certain things, my medication side effects, and also, most important, people who didn't believe in me, and also nurses, but unfortunately maybe family as well. But
recovery.
Sometimes doctors or health professionals will want to treat you first with medication, and they can't always understand that sometimes that's not what you want. You want to try a different approach, and they don't seem to understand that that's a choice. And it's not refusing treatment or not wanting to be well, it's about having a choice in your life and the way that you want to approach your own treatment. And also, sometimes people can make quite thoughtless comments, especially doctors and professionals who maybe don't mean it, but they might not understand that it can have a really big impact on your day or on your week or your month if they say something that you maybe take the wrong way because you're in a really bad place in your head. And if they just maybe take a little minute to think about how someone might take this. They're only seeing you for 5 minutes, but it could go round and round in your head for quite a long time. So those are some of the things that have affected me.
Condescension is probably the worst thing. Just talk to me honestly, just talk to me. I know what I'm talking about because I've been the other side of the coin. I worked in the health service for nigh on 20 years. And the best people to deal with as patients were children, because they don't play any sides, they just absolutely tell you as it is. And that makes a great change to going into a ward situation where they say to you, we've always done it this way, don't you be trying to upset things, don't you change things. And it leads to you getting dispirited. And I just sometimes wonder that if that was maybe the start of my dealings with mental health from my own point of view. And I know what I don't want people to say to me, so I'd never do it to them. So just honest. Don't dress anything up. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think would improve. As long as you give people hope and encouragement, you'll get a result. If you stifle that or snuff it out, then you're taking away most things that people work for.
Well, I suppose the support I've had in the community has been immense. I've got the most warm, kind, compassionate CPN. She's just amazing. She's there for me at the drop of a hat. When I have a crisis, she's with me within half an hour. She's always there with kind words, and she's very gentle and very encouraging. She's always telling me how well I'm doing and what a difference she sees in me. When I can't see a difference in myself, she'll tell me that she sees a difference in me, and she makes me feel like I'm achieving a lot. When I feel that I can't wash a dish, she makes me feel that what I'm doing is enough for just that day. And she's wonderful. I've also had a lot of support from advocacy, speaking on my behalf when I've not been able to speak for myself, support me at meetings and things like that. And that's been very supportive, because it's difficult to speak for yourself when you're in recovery. It's often because you have no confidence. And
what's been positive is I knew I was going to get better. While the treatment order was negative, I knew there was positives to it. It helped me manage some of my parts of my life. When I moved to support accommodation, I felt that the staff and my social worker believed in me, which helped me in my recovery. I applied for a house in the community and hope to move, hopefully move soon.
There have been a lot of different things I've tried out, and I've found the things that work for me. I've found that art is unbelievably helpful, and I've had the privilege of being part of mutual support groups and art groups and getting to talk to other artists. And I also find that doing outdoor activities really helps, getting outside, being active, and again, if I can do that with other people who understand maybe where you're coming from or where you're at in your head, being able to speak to people who get that, but maybe we don't have to talk about it at the time. I do a lot of gardening, and that really helps. And personally, I find that running helps as well. I do like a bit of exercise, and it's something that I had to work out for myself. Worked, because people will tell you that you should fix your diet and your exercise, and everything will sort itself out. But really, it's about finding what works for you. It's not about just following every piece of advice. It's about trying out as many things as you can and finding out what your passion is, what makes you feel better.
All the services were helpful. It was a seamless progression, but when it came to the people that represented those services, the more they looked at me in the eye and the more they listened to me, then the more results they seemed to get for me. I'm sure you'd love to hear horror stories, but I didn't have any. There was a joined up effort, and everybody contributed a little bit, and sometimes more, and it seemed to work. And I'm 22 months down the line from when I was at my worst. I've got my own accommodation. I'm keeping myself clean. I'm keeping my house clean. I can go out on my own volition. I've got ideas, things I want to do. I've got back to my reading and writing. That went for years. So in the 22 months that I've been back, I have had a lot of help. Some that I didn't appreciate at the time, some that I could have probably done without, but I have had a lot of help. And I think that's one of the most important things. You have to learn to take the help.
Forever trying, find your way out of the wild, wild wood. Now there's no. I've changed my face, I've changed my name, but no one wants you when you lose. Don't give up, 'cause you don't tell me it's the end of everything. It always seems the darkest before the light.